Today is Thursday, January the 2nd, 2025, and the location of the interview is the Walla Walla Veterans Home in Walla Walla, Washington. I am interviewing Herald Reid, a World War II veteran. Herald, once again, where were you born?
I was born in Emmett, Idaho.
What year?
1921.
21. That makes you 103.
Right. It's going on 104.
Right. What was the birth date, the month?
September.
September what?
29.
September 29. Okay, 20. Okay. Dixie Ferguson and Vic Phillips, the videographer, are conducting the interview today. So, Harold, what war and branch of service were you in?
I was in the Air Corps and flew with the 391st Bomb Squadron, 34th Air Force Group, and the 391st Bomb Squadron.
What were the years of your service?
From about 2 to 4, 1942 to 44.
Okay, 2 years.
Yeah, I didn't get in at the first part of the war. I was working for the government.
Right. But you said you served from 1942 to 1944? In the service?
92 to, yeah, about 2 years.
Okay. And what was your rank when you left the service?
After service, I went back to Emmett.
But what was your rank?
Oh, Staff Sergeant.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now then, where did you serve? What areas overseas?
Overseas, we were stationed out at 35 kilometers from Ipswich,
England.
And but Mendleshire some, and was in there when the bomb on the field there. Okay. 30.
Okay. And your assignment was, and we'll get into that, but you were going into Germany on your assignment.
As I was a tail gunner, we from the first. Well, there's the crew.
Oh wow! Oh, take a picture of that, yeah.
And that was my original crew. That's a sad story too. And I trained with them, got ready to fly overseas with them. The pilot and pilot come in and said, let's take throw the football around a little bit before we eat. And the crew chief and I were the only ones that went with them. The rest of them were writing letters home and that. And so we went out. But they had moved the lights poles from here over to here so they'd have a bigger field. They filled it in, but then after it settled down, they didn't go back and refill them. Okay. Guess who stepped in it?
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Your old son went to the hospital. That crew picked up a tail gunner and away they went.
Oh my goodness. Well, we'll get into that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
When we get to that section of your experience. So I just need just a little bit more background. So you told me that you were drafted.
I was drafted.
Yeah. What year? Could you explain how you saw the letter?
Well, I was disgusted. I'll tell you that. I couldn't even have a chance to enlist. I wanted to go back and enlist in the Air Force. So I was drafted, so when I went to Salt Lake City for the draft, where they indoctrinated me and had tests and all that, got high enough that I was placed in the Air Force. And I went to Buckley Field, Denver, Colorado, and took basic training first. And I was headed for a pilot. I was going into the Air Force pilot training. So they sent us to Denver University for 16 weeks. But I'd had 2 years of college already, and this was all a repeat for me. And anyway, one Sunday they called us into the chapel. They said, we got some good news and some bad news for you. The good news, you get to see in Nevada.
Were you going to say Las Vegas?
Las Vegas, Nevada. You get to see Las Vegas, Nevada. And bad news is you're all going to be gunners instead. They need them worse than they need pilots. So away we went to the field there at Las Vegas.
Okay, I'm gonna just for a minute. Were you expecting the draft letter?
No, I was coming home to enlist.
Okay. By enlisting, what made the difference between getting drafted and being enlisted?
What?
What made the difference if you were going to enlist instead of being drafted?
I could have my choice then. If I enlist, I could run enlist directly into the Air Force, and they'd send me right out on that if I passed the test. And
Would you have wanted to be a pilot? Obviously.
Well, I was supposed, I wanted to be a big bomber pilot, big pilot. The bigger the crew, bigger the plane, the better for me. That's what I wanted to be, and I wound up going where I could see.
I see. Well, Harold, if you were to enlist and fly the big bomber airplanes, you knew that was going to be a dangerous assignment.
So? Everything was dangerous, I tell you.
You're right. Would that have probably been a B-17? Is that what you wanted to fly?
I wanted to fly bigger than that. B-19.
Okay. I've not heard of a B-19. Is that a bomber?
Bomber.
Bomber, sure. Okay.
The B-17, that was the bigger one.
Okay.
And then they got the great big one, and that would have been fun to fly.
Well, getting back to the day you got your draft notice, were your parents at home when you opened the letter?
Dad was dead. Dad wasn't dead. No. They weren't. No, I don't. I think they were back in visiting in Kansas and Missouri.
Okay, but you were living at home when you got the draft letter.
Oh yeah.
And then, just to ask you, how many brothers and sisters?
I have 3 brothers, and I have 1 sister.
Are all of them still alive?
None of them except me. I'm it.
You're it, yeah. Okay, all right, so getting back to your assignment, how long after you got the draft letter did you report to?
30 days. I had 30 days to get things cleared up and everything. And I was married at the time, too. So we got there, and then I went to Salt Lake City at the end of 30 days. We got on the bus, and away I went.
But she stayed back.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, okay. Oh.
And she went to work for the high school.
Okay.
She had graduated in college and come home. And she wanted to be a pharmacist, but she didn't have chemistry, so she had to come back and take pre-chem in high school before she could get
Harold, do you remember her reaction when you got that draft notice? Do you remember that?
When I got that draft notice,
Do you? No?
I don't know.
Yeah. But okay, so you went to Salt Lake, Buckley, and then to Las Vegas.
Yes, then to Las Vegas. And that was the most enjoyable part of one of my life.
Why would
one
that
story
be?
of my life.
Why?
I got to shoot shotgun shells by the case. With home, I had to pay for them. Up there, I didn't have to pay for them. And I was shooting them. And they had a guy that held the gun above his head, and he shot trap with those. And he hit him. He had 44 in a row before he missed one.
Oh, yeah.
Showing us.
Did you ever go into Las Vegas? I thought you were happy about going to gamble, but this.
Yeah, we got to leave one night. They took us in the bus truck, and we got there. And to get into Las Vegas, you had to have a war bond. We didn't have any money to buy nothing with.
Yeah.
And we was staying there, and the guy said, "Come on." And the wind, 3 of us went in. He bought 3 war bonds. And he took us into the training into Las Vegas. We got to see the fights.
Harold, what did Las Vegas look like back then?
3 casinos.
Out in the middle of the
3,
desert.
about 2.5 blocks long.
Yeah.
And the railroad station this way, and the casino was right about a block off of the way.
Wow. Amazing.
It was very big.
Amazing. Did you even know about Las Vegas back then? Didn't know anything else?
No, I'd never heard of it.
So how long did you train outside of Las Vegas?
Oh, we stayed there for about, what was it? Well, it was about 12 weeks or so. We had to learn how to fire the gun, 50 calibers. We had to learn how to track in turrets, because they didn't know where we were going to, what position we'd be in. We had to learn that. We had to learn to track and shoot the shotgun and kill and shoot tracks with a turret before we could go on. And the final base was a circular track, about 20 miles long over there, maybe 5 miles, not 25 miles. And they had 25 positions these traps were shooting at us at different angles, as we was in the back of a pickup, traveling at 25 miles an hour, and they would throw the traps at us when we got there, and we had to shoot them down. And we learned that. We learned how to do it, how to aim, and how to fire, and lead them, and everything. And the most I ever got, I've shot them, 25 of them. And when they took the final test, they put us in there, and you had to do it. And they was hoping that I'd shoot 25 again this time, because they had been me permanent partner. He said, "I missed the last one, which was the easiest one of them all of them. I just snapshot him, and I missed him."
You were overconfident.
And in a way, I'm glad I did. Because he said, if you'd have made that, we'd have made you permanent party, and you'd been here the rest of the war. Preaching it. You'd been an instructor.
You didn't want to do that.
I didn't know. I didn't. No, I was ready to go.
Were you?
Oh yeah. I was young and.
And how old were you?
I was 22.
Young. Did you have that can-do American spirit? You wanted to get in the fight?
No, not necessarily.
No, not that.
And just wherever I could land up. I really wanted to be a paratrooper, but that was out.
Were you a hunter as a young kid?
A what?
A hunter?
Oh yeah, we killed bears, and a lot of deer. That thing.
Do you think that's what made you such a good marksman?
I don't know.
Maybe.
But we had guns ever since I used to hunt with a shotgun. I had 20 gauge, hunted with that, and we had an old dog that went with me, and he'd flush him up, and I'd shoot and miss. The next one he'd grab over and he'd grab him, bring him back and give him to me. I always took a pheasant home with me at night.
A pheasant, pheasants, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So did you feel like you were prepared and trained at the end of the 12 weeks?
Pretty good, yeah.
And so at that time you were preparing to be a waist gunner.
I was, after couldn't go in as pilot, yes. I was, whatever they wanted, I didn't know where I'd wind up at.
Okay.
But I was one to fly.
Okay. So you felt pretty ready then?
Yes.
All right. What was the next step? Where did you go next?
After that, then we passed that test, and then they sent us up to Sioux City, Iowa. And we went into a great big building, and they gave us our crew number. And we went up to this room, and they had 3 double beds put together in various places all over the building, all over that big room. And they gave us a number, and we found it.
Harold, you were telling us your next assignment was Sioux City, Iowa. Your next assignment, your next training.
Oh, on the training.
Yeah, so do you want to explain what you did there?
On that.
In Sioux City?
In Sioux City, we picked up, went in, we found our number, and pretty soon 5 more guys come up, one from Iowa, one from Washington, 2 from Bronx, 1 from Alabama, and all over that was the crew, the enlisted men.
You remember that? At 103, you remember that?
That's what?
You remember that specific at 103, you remember that crew?
Yes.
You remember where they were from? And how they came?
That was the first time I'd ever met them.
That's amazing. Okay.
And then, wasn't long before 2 officers come in and looking for us. They found it, and they said, Lieutenant Goss, that guy over on the left, said, we're not going to be a crew. We're going to be a family. He said, my job is to take you over, and your job is to keep them off from me. If you fail, I fail. Yeah. If I fail, you fail. Yeah. So he said, we bonded. I mean, we really bonded together. It was,
interesting.
10 guys really loved each other, you might say.
Band of brothers.
Yeah, but it's just part of the family.
Well, you're saving each other's lives. You depended on each other.
Yeah.
You depended on each other.
Oh, yes.
To save each other's lives.
Yeah, we knew everyone would work with each other and everything.
So you were introduced to your crew and the pilot. Were there 1 or 2 pilots?
There were two pilots, pilot and co-pilot, both of them. And the co-pilot was a pro football player from Pittsburgh. He was a 220-pound man. He had shoulders about like that. Oh, God, he was big.
He could fit into the cockpit.
He could fit in there tight. Yeah.
So, how long did you stay in Sioux City about?
Oh, we stayed there for about 12, 14, 16 weeks.
Can you describe a daily routine, how you were training there?
Yeah, we got up, we had breakfast, we went out, all of us got in the plane, we started flying. The radio operator was getting fixes where we were and how we were, radio compasses, and from here to here and here to here and here to here, and then they crossed, and that's where we were. Mm-hmm. And he had to do so many of those and everything, and he had his tail gunner, and the tail gun. Well, this is something I'll tell you. He had a big wire let out for his antenna, so he could pick up stations all over the area, and he was having an awful lot of trouble. He'd maybe get one or two a flight, when normally you'd get 8, maybe 10 of them. So they said, if you don't get some more fixes, we're going to have to send you back to school to get trained again. We didn't want him to lose, so. Anyway, that big old ball was out there, and he'd go up and stop, go down and stop, back up and stop. And as a tail gunner, that was too exciting. So I said if I could just knock him down. He got up there, and I fired at him, and man, he just disappeared. Oh, that busted it off. And from then on, he was picking up stations in Florida, he was picking up California, it was,
I love it.
He had everything.
What kind of a plane were you in?
It was a B-17.
B-17. Would you describe what it was like to be in a B-17? You were in the back. Was it cold? Was it comfortable? What was it like?
Now you hit the crew, boy. You hit the jello. That tail was the coldest spot on the plane.
How cold?
163 below zero.
What? Wow.
You know what my temperature is here? 56, 50, there's 80. 96 instead of 98, 96, 97 sometimes, right. Between those two.
Right.
That's my body temperature that I have. That's why I keep it so warm in here.
Right. How did you stay warm?
Well, you had heated flying suits, helmets, high blasted, everything, but they didn't do the job.
No,
I had to break ice out of my oxygen mask to breathe. And moisture from your air would freeze as it come out, hit the air, it'd just freeze right there. And I had ice from here clear down to there, about a half an inch thick, or almost an inch thick, all over me, clear to my knees. When we'd come back and land.
Was that because you were in the winter in Iowa, or that was
No, that was just
common?
That was when you was up around 18 to 20,000 feet.
Wow.
And you flew east, and which way was I was looking? I was looking west. Mm-hmm. The sun rises in the east, and the nose. Those guys had their jackets off. Yeah. Oh. They were warm.
Yeah.
And pilots had their jackets on, radio operator had his coat on, was nice, it was cozy. The ball gunner, of course, was cold, and the waist gunner was fairly cold, but they wasn't as cold as I was.
Okay, you talked about a ball gunner, a waist gunner, and what were you?
Tail gunner.
Tail gunner. You were way in the back.
Way in the back, all by myself. The thing had plexiglass up around your head. From here, so you could see this way and look that way. You looked better than 90 degrees off of the back. And it was in a cubby hole, kind of a cubby hole back there. The way I did, I squeezed my shoulders in, then moved in tight, straightened them out, then scooted back up to it so I could sit there and watch. That way I was part of the plane. When the plane would vibrate, I wasn't going this way, I was going with it and rolling it with the tail.
Harold, could you do that position if you were a really big man?
I weighed 190 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was a lot bigger than I am now.
Yeah. Okay,
Sure.
and boy, you could, that's a tight fit.
What?
That's a tight fit.
Yeah.
And is there a reason why you became a tail gunner and not one of the others?
I lost the flip of the coin. They signed it to me.
Okay.
I was assigned that from somewhere back in where they controlled the who went where.
Yeah, okay, Harold, on a typical flight, how long, and this is before you went into war, just in your training, how long was the flight and what was it like? Noisy? Cold? How long were you?
Well, and the training was done in the summertime. It was nice. It wasn't too bad. But the flight, after we got in and went back, we went overseas in November.
Okay.
I had Christmas in Iceland. I had Thanksgiving in Iceland, rather Christmas. Thanksgiving in Iceland, and we landed in Greenland, Iceland, Greenland, Newfoundland, Iceland, Greenland, and England. And we got over there in November, and it was foggy. That was my biggest bugaboo, was the fog over there. It was so bad, you won't believe how bad it was. You can't believe it. You can't believe it.
Could you fly in it?
We had to fly in it. Had to go up through it. It lasted about 500 feet to maybe 5,000 or 10,000 feet. Just a band of fog, and the planes where we on the field, we had 12, had to fly off. And you fly in your formation, you get landed, and you get on the runway. He'd take off after he landed when we'd take off. We'd fly this way so many minutes, turn left, fly that way so long, turn left, fly, coming up at altitude all the time. Left, and finally you'd get out of it. If you didn't meet someone coming across.
Well, yeah. Did that happen?
Yes.
Yeah.
But they had quite a few wrecks. And we had one this way. He come under it. If we'd have been a foot lower, we'd have both been gone.
Wow. Did that last all winter long? The fog?
That lasted all winter long.
fog, yeah.
So, all, let's see, we finished up in, war was declared over. And then, that's when things got hairy over there.
Why is that?
Well, the Americans didn't like the English people. The English people didn't like the Americans very well. So you go to the theater, and after the show was over, they'd all say, "God Save the King," sing that song. The Americans sang it, but they'd had a few words in there that wasn't nice. And there was quite a few deals. So it got pretty hairy, but I'll tell you, later on, they started in selling bootleg whiskey to the Americans. But instead, it was regular old alcohol. And a lot of them blind, a lot of them, it killed a couple of them. So they did not like us, we did not like them.
What was the main issue? Why was there such dislike?
Where was the,
Why was there such a dislike for each other?
I don't know. It just,
Were you in their land taking away their women, Harold?
No, I'm glad you brought that up. When we got over there, I got over there a little later, and I see women who go to London, and see, and I'll tell you about London too. Go to London and you see a baby buggy come down the road, and look at it. Had dark. It was real dark. They met up with American Indian. The gal met up with American Indians and wanted to do something for him, and she did, and he did for her, and she was pregnant. And that they thought American Indians was the finest people there is, American Indians, and everyone went over with American Indian. God.
Oh my goodness. But did you ever fly together?
But
The Brits?
no.
flying together.
We had our fields, they had their fields. We flew in the daytime, they flew at night, so the bomber...
Why was that?
Why?
Why?
We were tougher than they were.
Okay.
That was
that's
main reason. They were shot up pretty bad. They were really, really hard pressed when we went over. If we hadn't have gone over, they'd have lost. They'd have lost the war.
Yes. Do you remember about how many American bases there were in England? About how many bases?
Oh, I don't know. There was a lot of them. Yeah, there was quite. There's an awful lot of English.
Okay, Harold, how many flights would you make in a day or a week?
Well, in a day, you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you get briefed, you'd go and get breakfast, I ate a scrambled egg and half a cup of coffee and 1/2 slice of bread. That was my breakfast.
Not much.
And then you go out and get briefed. You'd go to the flight, and they'd tell you where you're going to meet fighters, you're going to meet Flak, you're going to this, that, and the other thing. Well, where you were going, where everything. They had it all mapped out for you. Then you go down and get in the pickup, they take you out to the flight line, you get in your plane. I got in the tail as soon as I got there, I got in the tail, checked everything, make sure I had ammunition and all that. This is all done by the ground crew before we got there. The plane was warming up. When the pilots come over, after their briefing, away we went. We went down, taxied to the flight line and got on up the way.
Harold, when you were eating your breakfast, did you think this could be it? This could be my last breakfast. Did that ever occur?
No, never entered my brain. Never entered the brain.
No kidding. Huh.
No.
Uh-huh.
That wasn't important.
Yeah. Did the other crew members, were they a little more anxious or nervous than you?
No, they were like
Yeah.
we were like that. We members of the crew.
Because the statistics weren't good for the B-17s in the war, you know? How many missions did you make?
I made 23 flight missions, and I got cheated out of 6 from our glorious warrior, where we couldn't find him. He was running wild over there, and we didn't want to bomb our own people, and so they had to abort and come back after we get out there.
Could you explain what you're saying? Could you explain that story? What happened?
Well, you'd go out and Patton was running. He was going all over the place. If he could get gasoline, and he could steal it from everybody's place he got. So he'd go ahead, maybe it'd be 30, 40, 50 miles in front of where he's supposed to be.
Oh.
So we'd go over, and then they find ground crew to then contact and say, we don't know where he's at. He's up there somewhere ahead of us. So we didn't dare bomb anything.
I see. Now you're talking Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'd just turn around and come back, and we'd land the plane and defuse the bombs. And
My God. Was it usually one flight a day?
yes.
One flight, Did you fly every day?
It depends. The biggest thing we flew was probably 12 days in a row.
Oof.
And then they sent us on Flak leave because we lost so much weight.
Oh. What did that mean then? You had a couple of weeks off?
Well, we had a week, and we went to Southampton, England, and they fattened us up. The Red Cross had a home there. It was big, great big room in this mansion that they had taken over. And I don't know how many beds there was, but there was a slug of them. We never filled it up. But
I've never heard that story. And so you stayed there and you could eat anything and everything.
they had meals 24 hours a day if you wanted them.
Oh my gosh.
And anything you wanted if you could.
Yeah.
They give you whatever you wanted. And if you didn't eat very much, they'd come back and, what's the matter? Don't you like our food? Don't you think? Here's some more. Boy, they were after us to eat.
They were on a mission to get you fat.
They wanted to get us back up where it was. We had a week of that.
Well, Harold, how much weight would you lose approximately?
I was probably about I was from 195 down to about 144.
Oh, wow, yeah. Was that typical?
That was during the time we was flying.
Is that because...
I tell you,
go ahead.
and when you flew,
Yeah.
here's another thing you probably don't realize. You get up in the morning, you eat your breakfast, go, You go to the latrine and do everything you possibly could and then more beside.
Yeah.
And then you dress and go out on the plane line. Maybe you'd be gone 12 hours.
Yeah.
Where you go, you have to go.
Yeah.
You go in your pants, that's where you go.
Yeah. No depends.
No, nothing. I mean, yeah, and nothing. Back in the back, you couldn't. And then the crew chief, the waist gunners, had a gremlin tube. They could get rid of fluid. That's all.
You did not.
I couldn't get rid of fluid.
Oh my gosh.
No, I didn't have a gremlin tube.
Oh my gosh. Could you? I think I know what that is, but it's for men going to the bathroom.
There wasn't any.
Yeah.
There wasn't any.
So that made you all the colder if you wet yourself.
Oh, well, I never did wet myself because I never did drink enough water.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to, when they signed that night, they'd have post afternoon, they'd post on the board when we'd come on, whether we were going to fly the next day or not.
Mm-hmm.
If we were, why, I'd go to bed. I didn't even eat. Just tired. I mean, we were just,
I can't imagine.
it just knocks you, just deteriorates you.
Can't imagine.
Those flights. Just sitting there all day, just tense,
Yeah.
waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, right. So there were no snacks on the plane. You did not eat for 12 hours. No snacks.
And then,
Wow.
wait a minute, here's a story you probably haven't heard. When we come home at night, there'd be a pickup to take us to be debriefed. We go in there, and this was the nice part of the part. There was a doctor bartending. He give you a drink of whiskey, big shot of whiskey. There was a means of something at it. They didn't do it for nothing because it loosened a lot of tongues. When someone 12 hours without a drink or anything, you drink a slug of whiskey, you got pretty loose.
That means you started talking.
You wanted to talk a little bit. And they did. That's what they wanted. For one time, we went through and they said, what'd you say and what'd you do? And they would say, you had your turn. And I come back to me and I said, why in the world did they bomb that pasture? I said, my God, that's ruined it. Holes all over it. Even the cattle can't hardly get around on it. And the guy said, oh, how nice it is. He said, you know what that was? I said, no. He said, that was a jet takeoff field. He said, now they can't land, they can't take off.
Oh, yeah. But you didn't know.
I didn't know that. I was telling him, why bomb that pasture to ruin the cattle feed?
Interesting. So they knew what they were doing. Yeah, interesting.
Oh, God.
So it was truth serum.
Yeah,
Truth serum. So in the plane, were you busy when you're going over? How long did it take you to get over to your target from your base?
Well, sometimes it takes 6 hours.
Wow.
7 hours, 8 hours.
Wow.
And when we went to Berlin, it took 12.
Wow. How many knots or miles an hour?
How many?
A B-17. How many miles an hour?
Oh, we flew around 110.
Very slow.
Oh, that's pretty fast. We cut all the holes and covered up with patches. We flew on Queenie, our Queenie.
Yeah, what was the name of your plane? What was the name of your plane?
Queenie.
Do you know the story?
I don't know the story. We fell heir to it. But it had more stuff on it than you could ever shake.
Could you?
I want to tell you one story.
Please.
It's I was sitting in the tail, and something said, "You better check." So I leaned forward and I was checking around and felt my neck was cold. Turned around and looking. On this side was about that big of a hole where a piece of flak had went through and come out the other side.
Wow.
Now you say there's no tail gunner ever had was an atheist.
Yeah. You bet.
And that's why.
You bet.
We had help. We had to have help.
Wow. What a story. Did that happen more than once?
No, just that one time. That was enough for me.
Oh my gosh. Did that happen when you were over Germany?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you?
They were shooting flak up ahead.
Wow. Did you realize right away what happened, Harold?
Not until I got a chance to look at it.
Yeah. So how long was the flight once you got into Germany? How long were you there?
Over Germany?
Uh-huh.
Oh, anywhere from 6 to 12, 14 hours.
Over Germany?
Yes.
Were you just circling around?
No, you was going to your target way over, almost to Russia. We weren't too far from Russia.
Wow.
And then we fly north. Here's another story. We fly north, hit that waterway up there, come out on the waterway, so they flak wouldn't bother us. Come out and come clear out to the ocean and then go home. Well, one day we had a pilot. Our CO was a P-47 pilot, and he flew these missions, and then he got stationed there. Anyway, he met us one time. Flew into the radio, and he could fly over the top high enough that they didn't bother him. He didn't bother, but the flight. So he's coming out, and he had everything was fine. He kind of cut the corners that come around, and in the meantime, the Germans had their German fleet ready for us. And I think we lost, 5 or 7 planes from Flak that's shooting over. He was down at 12,000 feet being nice to us, so he wasn't cold. And he cut across that corner and he ran right over the top of the German fleet. And our pilot turned that plane up on nose and down he went. Down. Finally he pulled out just above the water.
Did you see that?
I was in the tail of it. I didn't see it. I could see where we'd been.
Wow. Harold, right across here, I wish he were still here. He was one of those pilots. Do you want to fix that?
Just let it go.
Yeah. He was one of your pilots that lived here as your neighbor. He told you one of those stories, a P-47 pilot. They were the escorts for the B-17s, is that right?
Yeah.
They were the escorts.
Yep.
Yeah, amazing.
They had those P-54s.
P-51?
And the new plane that.
P-51?
Yeah. Anyway, the fighter pilot, they had a real good plane in distance. They could fly long distance. They'd fly in and meet us, help us, anyone to come around while they take care of them.
Yeah.
So we weren't bothered with planes.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't a bit afraid of planes. Not a bit. They didn't bother us a bit because we were tight, and the ones that didn't make it very far. All 1850 caliber machine guns was firing at him at the same time.
Right.
And he just stopped.
Yeah. Were you always in formation?
Oh, yes.
How many were there in formation?
Well, 12.
Wow. Wow. All the time, 12?
Well, the leader of the plane, leader of the group, had the flight bomb. The rest of us didn't have bombers, didn't have any bombs sites. And just one bomb site up the front of the plane. So they wanted to come in at the front of the plane and try to knock him out.
Yeah.
Was
he the most experienced? Is that why he was in front?
I don't know. He just.
How far up were you? What could you see up there?
We were up around anywhere from 18 to 28,000 feet.
Oh, that's up there.
Yeah, way up there. I mean, you vaguely see ground. I mean, you'd just see almost the curvature of it.
Really? Wow. So, Harold, what was your main responsibility as a tail gunner? What were you doing?
I was trying to keep everything off the tail. Any fighters or anything, my responsibility was to get them before they got us.
Were they pretty good pilots?
Oh, yeah.
They were.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
our pilot, that pilot up there, I landed that plane. I had my private pilot's license, and I knew a little bit about how to do it. But he got me up there, and I had to fly the co-pilot. The co-pilot went back to the tail, and I went in.
Why was that?
When we was training.
Oh,
And he wanted someone that, if it happened to the pilots, to be able to grab the wheel and take care and come bring it on. So several times we'd shoot landings, and he'd finally put me over, and he said, "Now you shoot the landing." And I'd go down, land, up, fly around again, down, up, down, land, hit the ground, bounce coming down. Before I got used to it. And I did a pretty good job.
I bet. Amazing. So, the B-17's main mission were to bomb air bases, enemy threats. What was their main mission to do?
We bombed the ball bearing plants. We bombed a lot of factories, railroads, roads, bridges,
Submarines?
stuff like that.
Submarines? The submarine pins?
No, we didn't see any of that. They had, what was it? I'm going to tell you about it, doggone it.
Right. You were telling about the
Yeah,
targets.
I know, but I was, well, it'll come back.
Yeah, you were telling about the different targets.
Yeah, different things on it. Oh, we took off from a land. We got in the plane, took off, and started going up and went on our mission. And in our waist was a big round tube, about that big around, and it was about almost 5 foot tall, had a lid on it, and it had dangers.
It had what?
It was, we had to load it, we had to bomb it, we had to put the fuse in it. And we opened it up to see what the heck they was doing with a big round tube like that. Guess what was in it?
What?
Money.
Oh my gosh.
Ration stamps, food stamps. And over Dresden, Germany, we set that thing out and it blew up, and money and food stamps went all over Dresden. They wanted to wipe the food out. The Germans had formed a base there, so they was eating their civilians' food. So we bombed, put the food down there, and the civilians could get it too.
My gosh.
And it was.
My gosh.
We had quite a bit of espionage.
Did you? Inside the country, on the ground?
Yeah.
Interesting. So you had pretty good intelligence where to bomb then?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Who would they be on the ground, Harold?
I don't know.
Yeah.
They had to. I don't know. I just don't know. But I know we had stuff that you really didn't get.
So, Harold, at the end of the mission, when you came back to your base, did you have a debriefing every time?
Every time you got a shot of whiskey. Oh, we like that.
So, did you sleep well after a mission?
You wouldn't eat. And sometimes you wouldn't eat to get to bed so you could get and sleep if you was going to fly to my next.
Well, you must have been starving from a full day.
Oh, yeah. Well, which would you rather eat or sleep?
Yeah. Well, that's why you lost so much
I mean,
weight.
you're tired. You're dead tired.
Yeah, I bet.
Because you've been doing this for 3 or 4 days in a row, and here comes another day, another day, another day, another day. And
yeah.
pretty, and then pretty soon you could eat. You could eat a little bit, but not much. And you wanted to get in there and get, because you knew if you was going to be tomorrow, why?
Yes. You couldn't wait for that Red Cross food. Did you mentioned that one close call for you, that Flak. Were there any other close calls in any of your missions, your flights?
Yeah, few. Yeah, like I told you, we was landing in fog and he come right over the top of it.
Yeah.
And then we had other close calls with various groups. When we got up there and got ahead, and that was foggy, and planes were flying around everywhere trying to find their own crews and find everything. I mean, it was a mess. American planes going all over trying to find where they were. And so they started to tack on to someone. So we had a group, and we were going over 2 planes. Got in a tail in a race to get in our back there, tack onto us. And they were really rolling. I mean, they were coming just as fast as they possibly could. And they didn't cut it in time. And I stuck the guns up and I touched the nose guy.
Wow.
It was that close.
Wow. Wow. Could you literally wave to the other plane?
Oh, yeah.
You were that close.
Oh, it wasn't any further than from here to you to
Wow.
the nose gunner.
Wow. But that is tight formation. That's not easy to
That's not a formation. That's a race for to get in position. Oh boy.
Could you explain the reason for formation? Why a formation?
Okay, for formation, they place them so that they have so many guns pointing various ways, and also that if you got more guns, got more tighter guns, with tighter, they have and more apt to hit the target. Because when the first planes went over, they had no idea how to aim, where to shoot, or how to shoot them.
Yeah.
They shooting the lead plane and knocking this plane down.
Yeah.
They couldn't figure out what was happening. Finally, someone got it and said that you had to lead them in different towards. We led toward the tail of the plane. Instead of heading forward, we led to the tail of our plane because the bullet was going forward with us too as we were firing,
Right.
and it would carry forward while.
And did you ever run out of ammunition or bombs in your flight?
While you bombed, you dropped all your
You
bombs.
just got rid of it all.
Yeah, they dropped the way we bombed. Okay, your planes are flying over. You hit the initial bomb group point. From there, you fly into your mission straight into it, level formation and everything. And the bombardier got ready to take over the control of the plane, and he'd guide the plane so it'd hit the target. And bingo. When he dropped the bombs, all the bombs in the bomb bay would go, all at one time. All right, our plane was behind him. As soon as we saw those planes, we dropped our plane. Plane behind us, as soon as they saw ours, they dropped their plane. Back behind, this behind. Then,
I mean, being on the ground, the massive bombing and destruction. Woo.
that was,
Woo.
I imagine I've killed more people than more people could imagine.
Yeah. But
I helped. I don't think I killed them, but I helped.
so, Harold, do you think about that today, or you just say
Yeah, I
this-
do.
Of course.
It
Yeah, of
kind
course.
of bothers me.
Of course.
It's But
It's war.
yeah, I
It's-
justify it at the time.
Of course. And Harold,
But once in a while, I
sure.
daydream, I guess,
Sure.
or whatever it
Sure,
is you
of
want to do.
course. I think any combat soldier experiences that, don't you think?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's war, and it's not good.
Oh, it's not nice.
But you always kept in mind the reason for the mission,
You're right.
because if it wasn't them, it was us.
You're right. You either, it's just like you fire a gun, or you get killed, or you kill him.
That's right. That's right.
That's it.
That's right.
That type of a.
Did they train you? Did they talk about that before you went over? They did not.
No.
Yeah. When you came home, was there any kind of debriefing, or you just get on the train and come home?
Look, I wouldn't talk about the war at all. No, sir, boy. That was also off limits.
Yeah. And that was very common. And why was that, Harold?
Well, we weren't proud of what we did. We killed too many people, and I mean and well, what happened? Why I got it so I could talk about it. We had a meeting one night, lodge meeting, and we had a Marine, had an Air Force, had a Navy, and all the services was there. And anyway, we could talk among ourselves, and we got talking among ourselves. There's no meeting that night.
You all understood each other.
Yeah, right. And we talked about what happened and how. And after that, I could talk.
Yeah. Would you say that was probably the best therapy to talk with each other?
Oh, yes.
Do you know how old you were when that occurred? Was that way down when you were much older that happened?
No, it wasn't older. It's a couple of years.
After the war?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. By the way, when you were over in England, was there very much communication with your wife or your family?
Oh, I wrote letters. When they went over and I stayed they went overseas and I went to the hospital with my knee. Okay, all my stuff went with them. Well, they got shot up pretty bad and they had to bail out.
Your crew?
The crew had to bail out.
Oh.
If I'd been there, I'd have been out with them. But they had to bail out. And there is a sad part about this too. But they bailed out and didn't report back to the base. So the MIA, that crew was MIA, so they sent a letter home to my wife that I was MIA.
Oh my.
Missing in action, and oh God. Now what? Is he dead? Is he killed? Or is he alive? Or what happened? So she played cards with the Red Cross gal, and the Red Cross gal said, I'll see if I can get a message out of her pretty quick. So,
and your wife was where at the time, Harold?
Oh, but she was at Emmett. She was a telephone operator.
Oh, okay.
And so we waited, and she waited a while, and pretty soon, here come a letter. She got a letter from me, dated after I was notified. So she went up and she said, look at that, he's not in it, he's not in it.
Oh my goodness.
I mean...
well, Harold, what happened? You had a knee injury? Where were you in the hospital? What happened?
I was in the hospital, and...
Where were you?
Lincoln, Nebraska.
What happened?
Well, I couldn't straighten my knee out. Wouldn't straighten out. Go so far, just like a piece of wood in the back of a door. If you put it in the jam, you can open the door so far, you close it so far, that's it.
Yeah.
You can't do it. Yeah. Well, my knee was the same way with cartilage. So they put me in the hospital, Lincoln, Nebraska. And they put a harness around my chest, put me to the head of the bed, tied me to the head of the bed, put a pulley over the end of over the bed railing, and with rope and tied it to my foot. Put kind of half shoe on and with a harness and hooked on. Over the end of that pulley, they put 45 pounds weight.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started shooting me, getting me warm and nice. And boy, I'd go to sleep and then straighten out. Oh God, it hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It really did hurt a lot about it. And I'd wake up and I'd bend my neck and then put this like this. And that's the way I slept.
Mm-hmm.
And I slept a couple of times. So come in, the doctor, how you doing? You get it straight? No. Put 15 more pounds on that bed. Now it's up to 60 pounds. And the pressure this way, oh, that was a good God, boy, you got warm all over, nice. Yeah. Well, finally it worked.
It just went away?
Yeah, I straightened out.
How weird.
Kinda.
How long were you in the hospital?
Oh, about a week.
Yeah.
And then when I in the hospital a week, I went down to therapy, morning, noon, and night for 2 days. And they said, well, now you can walk down. I was wheelchair down. He said, come in. Anyway, they worked on it, and it did.
It helped it. So, what happened? They discharged you from the hospital. Then where did you go?
After Lincoln, well, and I got up you go to the basement and get therapy and go down there, and they wheelchair. Then I'd walk down, and then I'd go down by myself, morning and noon and night and everything. Pretty soon the captain come in with my clothes, and he says, put your clothes on. I need you for go on the flight line. For a new crew, with a new crew. And so I put them on and got ready, and they took it out. They were the flight, the plane was at the end of the runway waiting for me. The door was open, he said, go ahead, crawl in. I went over and crawled in, and that was my introduction to the new crew. I met the waist gunner, the ball gunner, radio operator, and the crew chief. And then flew with it. It wasn't long until I realized that it wasn't the same crew that I was with it. Well, we wasn't a family.
Yeah.
He was the boss, and he knew you'd better believe it, and if you didn't believe it, he would tell you so.
Yeah. Not the same.
All the same. I mean, yeah, he was. The crew was not nearly like this crew. It just is much opposite of this crew as you could get.
How much longer did you have to serve with them?
So we got discharged.
How
Till the plane war was over and come home.
How
I
long?
flew all my missions with him.
Yeah. How long was that? A year or so, or?
Probably 9 months. 9,
So
10 months.
getting back to the first crew, what did happen to them?
Well, they got in there early in the first crew, and they had to bail out. Shot the plane up. Had to bail out.
Over Germany.
Yeah. No, it was over France.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming home. Got home. He started home, and then he said, "You better bail out." He said, "The pilot would. You all bail out, and then I'll bail out." So they bailed out, and he set her out, and so he'd go over the ocean and land over there rather than people. So he bailed out. Well, the crew got different crew. They finally got together, and
They all lived. No.
and they couldn't find the pilot. And one farmer said, "I have a man out in my field I'd like to have you take a look at." Went out and he had the ripcord in his hand for the parachute. The parachute should have opened on his shoulder pack. So we looked at it and it was wired shut. The saboteur had got in England and put a bunch of wires on, heavy wires on the rip where the ripcord hold it out to go. He had wired those two shut like that. Put the ripcord here and it had come out, but nothing had happened. Couldn't open up. You couldn't get the chute open if you wanted to. You couldn't get it open unless you had to cut the wire, a big heavy wire.
Wow. But the other crew members lived?
Yeah, he was the only one. They always went for the pilots. They were told to look at their pilot because we found several of them that had wired shut. You look at yours. We can't look at all of them. You look at yours. Make sure it's not wired shut before you take them out. Instead of that, it was a backpack, and they had to get kind of nasty to get in to look at it. But
a French
he looked at a couple when it first happened. Everything was fine. Everything's fine from here on out. It wasn't fine, and it killed him.
A French farmer found him.
Yeah.
A French farmer. Wow.
Yeah.
What a story. My goodness.
And that was a sad part of that.
Harold, could they ever identify those saboteurs? Did they ever figure out?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I never had.
Never heard that story.
I don't imagine you'd hear of them if they found someone find them. Why?
Sure.
I don't think you'd hear very much about it.
Do you know, Harold, if that original crew went on to fly together again?
Yeah, but
Not the same.
it wasn't the same. They got new pilots. They moved the radio operator to another radio, and the plane blew up, killed them. And on takeoff over the field. And I think out of that, I think 2 guys are still alive. One guy now is still alive. Not now, but when finally wound up one guy.
Yeah. Did you ever stay in touch later on with any of them? Like a reunion?
It just didn't feel right.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
It didn't feel right. I contacted back east one of the crew members. He was from Chehalis, Washington, and Chehalis, Washington, and his wife, and she told me he had passed away. And
you never did any training here in Walla Walla?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, huh. Yeah. Well, oh my, so you were discharged from the service in 1944 or 45? 45?
45.
45. What was that day like of your discharge? Where were you and how did that happen?
What?
When you were discharged, the day you were discharged. Well, first of all,
Okay,
uh-huh.
that's something else. That's another part of my history of my story. When we come back, I went back to a captain said, I've got a good job for you till you get discharged. He said, I said, I'd like to be a MP downtown. I can take my wife there and get off the rations and everything like that. And he said, I got a better job than that.
Where was that, Harold? Where?
Lincoln.
Okay.
Lincoln. And he said, then he said, I got a better job than that for you. I got a spot picked up for you. So, okay, well, I got the spot. And he sent me to Amarillo, Texas. And he was, I was a post detail clerk. And I had rank over, there was a whack, bug sergeant and a whack corporal was running the stuff. But I got the credit for it because I had the rank on staff sergeant. And I tell you, that was a powerful position. I didn't realize it. And he come up and he said, what do you think of this position? I said, I don't think it's a hot. I'd rather be downtown. He said, say, they're cutting up chicken up in officer's mess. I just come from there. Have you sure that they need all the help they have? I said, no, why? He said, you better start calling these people and telling them that you're going to inspect their, see if they need the help they're requiring. They know you used to have 3 or 4 guys sitting around doing nothing. So I called and I said, I'm coming up. You know, okay, I'll meet you. The sergeant met me at the door and took me in and showed me. There they were cutting up chicken and everything. He said, do you like chicken? I said, yeah. You know, what do you like? I said, I like the dark meat. Went on and he said, what, you married? I said, yeah. Wife here? Yeah. What kind? She likes white meat, of course. And he kind of giggled a little bit and never said anything. Went through and I said, well, it looks like everyone's busy and learning. And I said, I learned how to cut up my chicken a little better than I did before, too. And watching, they had it. And he said, okay, he went by and he said, just a moment. He went over and got a paper sack rolled up. Took it out. Okay, we'll go. And he said, you got a cooler in your trunk? Yeah. Opened it up, put the sack in. He said, you can go off base anytime you want, right? Take that home and put it in the refrigerator. That's all he said. Goodbye. So I went out and I took it into Amarillo where my wife was. Went and had a room in the hot point and 4 of them, 4 rooms around with wives in it, staying there patching. So I went in, I took the tour, and she looked and she said, my God, there's enough here for, I'll never will eat all this. And I said, you got 3 other gals around here, haven't you? You know, share the wealth.
There you go.
He said, I sure can, and I will. So I went back and I found out that he said, go out and see what's happening on the flight line. So I went out and I said, I just called up and told him he was coming. Went out on the flight line and he said, you can't go out there in that way, you have to have coveralls on. Fixed me up with coveralls over my uniform. And he said, you have to take a box, but they'll run you off. You have to be a part of a mechanic, like I'll be as a mechanic of them, or they'll run you off. So I went out and then looked around, and they had guys working and working good. Everyone was busy. And I come back and where do I check these stuff in? And he said, the guy's home, you'll have to take them with you and bring them back, I guess. So, okay. And I went back and I said, what clothes you checked out? You didn't check out anything here. And it had no record of it. He said, it's yours, take it home, use it.
Oh.
That was the kind of service they got.
Oh.
As post detail clerk. Oh, I'll tell you one story. A fellow colonel come in, said, I want, in the morning, he said, I order you to give me a man to help weed my wife's flower garden.
Oh my gosh.
That didn't set well. We don't furnish men to weed wife's flower garden, so the heck with you. You're not going to get it. I didn't tell him that. But he turned around and walked off. So he didn't get it. The next morning he was there bright and early, and boy, he put the three of us up on high salute. We had to stand at attention. He just ripped us inside and down the other, turned around and walked off. All three of us went down Major Powell's office. We want to transfer. He come out and he said, now what happened? And we told him. He said, well, why don't you forget it? He said, I'll take care of it. So he went to he called him in. We saw him come back, so we tiptoed down the island. And he said, from here on out, anytime you come into this office, you come and see me and tell me what you want. He said, if you come in and tell whether I'll call the third star general down, he'll explain to you why I have the authority to do this.
All right.
And I said, no, you don't need to. No. Boy, he left us completely alone after that. But the little whack had him orders cut to transfer to a base in the South Pacific. And if he hadn't have got that delayed, the MPs had picked him up and put him on the airplane and he'd went to the South Pacific.
My goodness gracious.
Boy, I mean, it was a powerful thing. We sent people on prisoners of war chases. In other words, someone went AWOL and picked up at home, and we'd send two guys to get him.
My good. So, wow, what a story. What a story. So, so where were you when the war ended? How did you learn about the war ending? Where were you?
We were in Mendelssohn's in their regular barracks.
You were in the barracks?
Yeah, we did our home over there, you might say.
So, how did you feel about that announcement? Can you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. They said you refined the base. Everyone, all GIs, was refined the base when the war ended.
Why was that?
They didn't want to fist fights downtown.
Oh, I see. So did you serve much longer, or were you released from service right after that? No, we come home and I went on vacation for a month and went back as post detail clerk. You were discharged according to points that you had. Oh, yeah.
And the higher the points was, the quicker you got released. I had 75 points.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them had 100.
Yeah.
Been in there a long time, had 100. And finally it got down to 75 and I was kicked out.
Yeah. Harold, what was that like? How did you get home to Idaho?
Okay. I had, and that month that I was, my mother had a brother living in Amarillo.
Mm-hmm.
So she got in the car with us and the wife, we went down there. And I had room for the wife. And she stayed with her brother. And then she flew home. And we drove home when the war was over.
Was that just a surreal feeling to drive home and you're free, no more war? What was that like, that feeling right afterward to you, driving home?
No different than it was the next day.
It was not, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any kind of reception when you got home? No.
No.
No? Man. Yeah. Did they know you got home?
We didn't tell anyone. I just went about my business, and that was it.
It's hard to imagine from where you were, what you were doing, to come back to just routine. To me, that would be so difficult.
Well, the first month you didn't do anything.
Yeah. Did you just rest and
Yeah,
sleep a lot?
Yeah, I went fishing, I went hunting, went camping and stuff like that. I wore myself out doing that.
Were you fattened up by the time you got home?
Oh, pretty much.
Yeah. So what did you do after you left the service?
Okay, I come home and I got shanghaied. My principal in high school, I had a junior high teaching certificate. I was teaching. And he said, he called up Effie and he said, "You think he'd teach for me?" She said, "I don't know." I said, I don't want to teach right now.
No.
And she said, "He's in a predicament. She's leaving. Her husband is back east and he's going overseas and they got 10 days furlough and she's flying back and going to be back there with him." And he said, "She's leaving, whether he has anyone or not. This is more important to her." So I said, "I don't want to." She said, "You ought to." And he said, "Well, you ought to." And she said, "I'm going to invite him down for dinner tomorrow night. When he comes in, he's going to ask you for it." Damn. I can't turn him down. He was a real nice guy.
Yeah. Desperate.
He was desperate, and he was real nice. He's a nice guy. He really was. And so I'll be there. He said, "Okay, I'll meet you over at the Wardwell office. Introduce you to the principal." So that was it. I started teaching just like that.
Did you teach from then on?
Yeah.
How many years were you a teacher?
35.
Wow, in Emmett, Idaho?
Well, no, we moved over to across the aisle.
What did you teach?
I taught chemistry, physics, general science.
In high school?
And math, yeah.
Wow, smart guy. Did they ever ask you about your war experiences, the kids? Never did. Did they know?
They knew I'd been in the service, and anyway, I don't know what. After I got out of the service, some of them come up and said, you know, Mr. Reid, if we had known what you guys had been through, we'd have been lots more lenient with you and tried to make your job more difficult.
Yeah.
He said, if we'd have known that you'd been what you had been through.
Nobody could comprehend it.
No.
No.
And
Yeah,
that's the only thing that they said.
Interesting. Did you talk amongst your peer group, your teachers, like in the? No, never came up.
No.
Never came up. Were there other servicemen teaching?
Other?
Were there other ex-servicemen teaching alongside you?
No.
Just yeah.
No, I was about the only
That
one
was
in
it.
that.
What? Wow. Wow. 35 years in the same school.
No. I taught 2 years in Emmett. I taught 8 years in Cottonwood, and the rest here in Mac High, Milton Freewater.
You were here? No Freewater?
Yeah.
Oh.
I was there, and I went to Pullman, Washington, got my master's degree, and I was vice principal of the high school.
My gosh.
And disciplinarian and stuff. And the kids come up to me now and they wish you would take care of our kids when that they don't have any idea what's going on.
My word. When did you finish your teaching career? What year was it?
What year? It was 81.
81.
That's when I retired.
My word. What did you do with the rest of your time?
The rest of my time?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we traveled a lot and we rested a lot. We didn't do very much a lot.
How about children?
We just have two.
Do you want to name their names?
Gavin and Tana.
Okay.
And we, Gavin never been married or anything. And he was head of the Liquor Control Commission for the state of Oregon.
Big deal.
Big deal for him.
Wow.
He worked his way up from ground up to the top.
Big deal, yeah. How about your daughter?
Daughter was married, had 2 children. They moved to Alaska. Well, they got married when the youngest one got married. They moved to Alaska. Her husband moved to Alaska, and they taught up there. Mm-hmm. And the other one stayed in Tillamook.
Okay. How many? You must have great-grandchildren.
Oh, I've got a couple.
Yeah.
But they're up in Alaska, so I don't get to.
But not great-grandchildren, right? Just great.
No, not that I know of.
Well, in looking back, how would you say that your service and experiences affected your life?
Well, I think it made me more aware that things had to be done the right way. Mm-hmm. And in teaching, you have to show purpose. Mm-hmm. Why you need it, why you have it, how it goes together in chemistry, how it goes together, why it stays there, how much energy is expended, how come some H2O and H2 water and hydrogen peroxide. It's got one more oxygen than water has. And how come it can stay? Well, it stays for a while and then it fades off. And then it loses all the energy and it's gone. Just floating around up there somewhere. And till someone bumps into him and picks him up and uses him. So there's this, if they understand purpose, how they do it, why they do it, and that seems like that it opens up a field. Now, I've had real good luck with chemistry in high school.
I would think there'd be kids that didn't want to be there because it was hard for them.
No, I've had, I'll tell you what happened. Two of my kids, two girls, taught chemistry from me. Went down to the University of Oregon, went to the Oregon State, signed up for chemistry, and found out that it was just a duplicate of what I taught them.
My gosh, wow.
And the guy said, "You've had this course before." She said, "Yeah, I did." He said, "Where?" "High school."
That says a lot for you. That's
no.
not so much for him.
He said, "I'll give you an A. You're one that you got 100 and every test that ever give you an A." So when you tutor two of my students, two football players,
Great.
she said, "Sure, I'll help them out."
That's great.
So,
That's great. Did they ever come back and visit you after high school?
oh yeah, I at Thanksgiving and Christmas, I had open house in chemistry. I was in my chemistry time. I had open chemistry. I told the guys, "Come back and tell me what I need to do to make chemistry more relevant in college."
All right.
And they would. They'd come back and they'd really lower the boom on me.
Very good. Good for you.
But it helped. I mean, and then I had National Science Foundation in the 60s. And I went to 3 of those National Science Foundations for chemistry. And I learned so much more back there than I had even in college.
I bet.
And
Wow.
come back and I use that stuff that I learned.
You bet. Wow, what a story. Pat, you said you've never gone to any reunions then.
What?
You've never gone to any reunions then. Service reunions, or did you join the VFW?
I'd never been to any.
Yeah. Did you ever join any service organizations like the VFW?
The VFW, life member,
Yeah. Here in
and national.
National.
All national. I belong to all those.
I bet.
All life members.
Yeah. Well, now, I could spend another hour. I feel like I've missed some questions. Is there anything that you want to add to this magnificent story?
Well, I just want people to know that life is completely different than what appears to be. You will pick some guy off the street and say he hasn't had anything or anything, and you might delve back into him and what he's done and what he's done, and find out he's been a terrific guy. And that just because he doesn't comb his hair the right way or he doesn't wear his clothes what you think is necessary, and I still get disgusted with the Vietnam guys got treated the way they did when they come home, man, I'll tell you, I see a Vietnam man in a restaurant, I'll buy dinner.
Thank you, Harold.
And my son does the same thing.
Thank you.
He sees a Vietnam man. He said, Dad, let's buy his service. Let's buy his restaurant.
Thank you.
Don't tell him. We just buy his breakfast the way we get.
Thank you.
We do that for everyone we see.
Thank you.
They
for that.
got hell kicked out of them, and it was simply because they were called baby killers.
That's right.
And I tell you, I would turn my back on her if she would even say hello.
Yes. I appreciate those comments very much, Harold. Vic, do you have any?
No.
Okay. Good. Boy, by the way, did you use the GI Bill when you came home?
Yes,
Good.
yes, I
Good.
did. Yep.
Well deserved. Yeah.
I got my master's from
Great.
Pullman, Washington.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Harold, I feel like there's missing questions. When people are going to watch this interview, they're going to say, why didn't she ask this question? But boy, do I appreciate your story and your service, and you're a legend. You're an amazing person. Your recollection is remarkable.
Well, I'm only 103, so wait until I get to be 106.
Can I come
Come
back?
back and interview me then.
If I'm still here. That's a date, Harold. Well, I'll come back when you're 104, okay? But thank you so much for your time. We were really looking forward to this interview. It's a privilege meeting you. Thank you.